I started this week with a clean counter, so congratulate me for how messy I'm about to make it. And then I went on to modifying some of the aluminum foil shower screens because I thought this was originally the problem that I was having with my shots. And it's not, but I went down this path a bit and I tested some shots. So some of the shots were able to get a little better, but they didn't sustain performance. So the shot looks pretty good, but in testing it doesn't quite hit the strength I was after. And I primarily used TDS and extraction yield as my test metrics. And I've used taste a little bit, but I wanted to run through shots rather than taste through shots. Because I'm actually able to produce them fast enough that I have difficulty feeling confident in the taste values, because there's only like 5 or 10 minutes between shots. So this worked okay, but I still notice there's a lot of side channeling coming in, and you can especially see it when I start running through the shot and the sides almost goes clear because there's less CO2, and that's partially because of the temperature. Because the temperature was lower, and I later found out this particular machine has a temperature problem. One of the things is not heating, but the aluminum foil here got torn a little bit on the side as it was sucked up. So I tried this seal for this other coffee thing from years ago, and it was a rubber kind of seal, and I cut it to shape. It did better, but it was really hard to keep the basket in. So the water seemed more in the center, and I still had some side channeling, so I was still frustrated. And the coffee was also coming out colder, which led me down the rabbit hole of looking at temperature. And it turns out my machine had something, part of the one heater's broken, we're not sure which one. But we pulled some logs, and apparently through the shot profiles I was pulling, I found a few other bugs. But the other thing is one of the later tests showed that we had a heating issue. So this one did a little bit better if I did also put a divot in the center of the puck, which I've done before, and then usually I'll do like a divot in the center with a star-shaped paper filter. I didn't do the paper filter for these because I was just trying to understand how flow was going. So I had a couple shots that came out looking really dark, like they were really gonna do something, but they didn't. This shot in particular, I believe, had been locked in for a while, and kind of it had partially started, and then I had some issue where I hit the scale or something. At one point I got water underneath the scale, and that kind of messed up when the machine would shut off. So I had a couple problems with that. After about a day, I was able to get it to dry out, and the scale worked again. So this shot just kind of came out weird, and it wasn't particularly good. So this shot is when I tried pushing through a bunch of water at first, and then pausing and then ramping up again. I did a few other variations where I manually played around with the shot, where I'd make the shot go and then stop it, and make it go again and then stop it. So there's not a manual control on it right now, but you can use the purge function and the move lever function, which allowed me to improve a little bit, but I still was frustrated by the lack of temperature. So it's particularly one of the symptoms that I'm seeing is you have the darker liquid in the center and the lighter liquid on the sides, which is an indication that the center is under extracted and the outside is over extracted. And so even when it's pulling, you see a lot of clear liquid pulling to the center. So it's decreasing your overall extraction rate. So it's like you start out with some initial good extraction, and then it just goes into problems. So I decided to do some thermal test. So I took a thermal camera, which I know is not the best indicator of what's going on in terms of thermal mass, but based on past experience, it can give me an eyeball number where to start. So I looked at this machine. First, I just looked at heating up, and it would only heat up to about 50. And then in terms of pulling a shot, this is the bottom of a filter basket as a shot's being pulled. You can see the temperature's increasing on the sides first, which is where the liquid's coming out first. And then by the end, it'll get up to a higher temperature, but just not high enough. So this is a shot of the coffee in here is just spent coffee. So the intent is just to run something through it and to pull out some of the thermal energy. But ultimately what you're getting with the hot water mixing with the coffee grounds is you're losing thermal mass. And so how quickly can you get up to the temperature you desire? So this only got to 76. And then I did the same test on my decent espresso machine, same basket, same portafilter, same profile. It was 9 bars at 96 degrees Celsius. So that's right here. So this is at like just resting. The machine was already at 70, and then as I pulled through the shot, it quickly got up to 90. So I suspected there's a problem, and I talked to Carlos, and he suggested a test to do. But before I did that test, I decided to do something dumb, just for shits and giggles, and I pushed milk through the machine. I also went through coffee, so I did 2 things. I used milk and heated it to 55 degrees Celsius, so which is one of the ideal temperatures of milk, and this is oat milk, so this is trying to have the right temperature of oat milk for a latte, and it's pouring into a shot in the cup. But I pushed it through coffee because I wanted to give it some resistance, and maybe that was a bad idea. So not much came out, and I ended up having to just push milk through. But it was a fun experiment in terms of if you look at this machine as a precision heater of liquids, what else can you use it for? It also made a mess when I pulled out the portafilter, so, but it was pretty to watch. And it made heated milk. So this test led me to looking at the water coming out before it hit the shower screen, which gave me some concern. Any flow of the water before it gets to the coffee can have an effect on how it enters the coffee. So I talked to Carlos about it, and who knows, maybe there's something they can do to change it and make it better. Then I used the machine to make oatmeal as a joke in part, but it is a kettle and it can heat water, and that water can be used to cook stuff. So I continued on some testing with some adjustments to the shot where I would push through some water and stop it manually and pull it back up and let it reheat. So this was able to get, I was still in the range of the using the rubber gasket, but without using it. So that was better. But I still had some trouble. And I know I'm going to get this manual type of control later. It's just not available at the moment. So a lot of these brews, because they came at lower temperatures, they didn't have as much crema coming out when it was slow. So this one I had, I pulled this one too long, but I was trying to pulse it just a bit, and the water was just coming in from the sides. It's the only challenge about doing this pulsing, is that it doesn't bode well for side channeling. And what I would like to do is I want to really do a ramp pre-infusion and infusion which means you go from no flow to 1 or 2 milliliters per second, but slowly over a period of like 10 to 20 seconds. On my decent espresso machine, I found that to be more helpful. So this shot, I'm still doing a puck divot, and it kind of worked, but this was more of a test to see how well I could do this pulsing back and forth. And I think one of these shots was a cold shot. I'm trying to find it in my data, because I or maybe that's the next day is the cold shot. So I think the awesome thing about this machine is you can go from many different temperatures, which you can on the flare as well. I think the challenge with the flare is having the more precise temperature control. So this was just using the nano, and then I saw that divot, and I kept looking at this, wondering if there's something I could do better. So I put a paper filter in there, and it evens stuff out a little bit. So I pulled another shot, and that shot had a cleaner puck at the top. So I don't know if that's indicative that it came through a bit better. But onwards into more shots. And I tried, if you do one big pulse. Oh, I think this was a hot shot because steam's coming out. But this shot kind of messed up. I pushed out a little bit too much, and the scale messed up, so I had to go again. Which didn't hurt the shot. The nice thing about pulling at cooler temperatures is if your shot messes up for some reason, you can just leave it in there and put more water in. Okay, so now I have this cracked basket I got from a friend, and I knew I had a cracked basket, so I just started trying it out. So this one, it didn't get up to a full 9 bars, but it did push open the opening just a little bit more, so I gave it a go again. I did this a couple times for fun, and I wanted to see what would happen in terms of channeling, and what would this look like in a coffee shop? Like, how would you even know that this happened? Because most of the time you have a spouted portafilter. So it blew through the puck. Water didn't even get to the other side. And it made for a pretty picture, though. Then I did this again, and again, it flew right into the camera. It just caused a hole right into the puck, and all your coffee went out. So this expanded a little bit more. I thought I would actually blow off part of the filter basket, but it did not. This shot is a staccato shot. I did fines on the bottom and coarse on top. It pretty instantly blew up. But I thought, maybe what if I flipped it? So this is it flipped. So it starts to channel, but then the rest of the portafilter pressurizes. So I thought it was an interesting find for when a major channel occurs. Anyhow, I went back to some temperature tests, and I showed that the temperature of water, of the liquid coming out, was hotter for the decent espresso machine. The Meticulous only got up to 65 degrees in the beverage, and the decent espresso machine got up to 74. So Carlos asked me to run this test. He said, overfill the top of the water and then try to pull your shot. And what happened is it took 10 to 15 minutes just to get to 84 degrees C, and then the shot timed out. And I tried it again, and it wouldn't get higher than 84, 85 C. Now, when the water temperature is lower than the brim, it'll get up to 95, which is what my profile is set to. And I even checked it with an extra thermometer just to see. Yeah, it didn't get up to what it should temperature-wise, and Carlos said that that's indicative of a problem with this particular machine. So my heating woes are woes for my machine, not anyone else's. And Meticulous is aware, and they're looking at it. And they also got plenty of logs from me. So with this knowledge in mind, I changed my profile. This ended my testing on the Saturday night, and this ended up with a 20% extraction yield at 16% TDS. So I've been heading in the right direction, and this is one of the roasts I've been testing with Meticulous, so I could track taste and extraction yield and whatnot. So the next morning I decided to try some cold brew. Okay, so chunks of ice don't work, and as you can see, so I had to grind the ice in a blender. It was a blade blender, not a burr grinder, but that's okay. And then I poured this slushy into the machine, which makes me think you could actually put actual slushy in a machine and extract with slushy. And this ice allowed it to get down to about 10 C, but it's probably a little bit colder. And then I did a long pre-infusion, and then it came out pretty good. So now this was like a 1.6 to 1 ratio, and ended up at like a oh wait, no, this was I did a much longer ratio. I did like a 2 to 1, and I didn't measure TDS. I just drank it. So I was aiming for experience. And I at this point I checked the paper filter. The paper filter had been pulled up a little bit because the back suction. This is the bottom of that. This is half of the puck was pulled out for the cold shot, which is interesting. Okay, so I had this idea if water is coming from the going to the sides faster, I've been doing a puck divot, but what if I prep it, tamp it flat, and then make a puck divot again, and then add the next layer. So usually I'm dosing, tamp, dose, tamp. And so in this way, I tamped it, I mix up the middle, and I'll do this again here, where I then tamp it, and then I'll mix up the middle a little bit, push it to the sides, and tamp again. And the aim was to get the coffee on the sides to have a higher density and slow down flow. This basket was also underdosed by by 2 grams. I usually do 23 grams, and this was 21 grams. But the flow came out really weird. It did come through the center, but it didn't get through much else. In fact, the center behaved very similar to the sides. So I wonder if the side of the puck behaves like a very lightly tamped center. And the overall TDS on this was 9%, and this is at a 1.6 to 1 ratio. So the total extraction yield is 14%. So this is really, really low compared to the other shots I was pulling. So I wanted to check that this wasn't just the underdose. So I went back to my regular dose, and I did this again, but I had similar results, which indicate to me that this is not a great method to do, but I'm glad I tried it because I really wanted to understand the densities and what would happen if you redistributed part of a puck after you tamped it. As you can see, it still has these huge gaps as it's coming down, and the increasing the dose didn't help. didn't move the needle on TDS or extraction yield. They're about the same. And looking at the puck, there's a dark part in the middle of the puck, halfway between the center of the puck and the outside. And that really shows that water didn't go there. So it was nice that sometimes post-shot analysis of the puck really shows the root cause of the issue. So then I went back to trying a lighter tamp and doing with a divot and then doing a paper star on top. So some things I don't normally do at the moment because of changes I've made to the shower screen. And then I did what did I do? I did this, I pushed through water for a few seconds at 2 milliliters per second, and then I stopped. And I did this again. So this greatly improved my shot. So the same coffee ended up with 14% TDS and nearly 19% extracted. So that's on a 1.3 to 1 ratio shot. So that was pretty good. So I did this again. So I continue to try to tweak this initial pulse of water. So this one was a little slower, and I still had good results on TDS and extraction. I didn't see a difference. I didn't particularly measure taste on this shot, but the next shot I did. This is the shot I tasted, and I tasted this one as well, because I was trying to not waste my coffee on shots that weren't great. So this one I pulled with a different roast. The previous ones were using a Robusta, which had more gas. This one I was able to get to, looks like about 15.5% TDS at 21% extraction yield. And I was pleased that even though I'm having temperature trouble, I'm still able to work around and optimize. So really the lesson for anyone curious is you should try to optimize your current equipment as much as you can, because all equipment has a lot of optimizations. The question in machine optimization is always a question of time and difficulty. So I can make optimizations if they don't take much time, or if they're not too difficult to do, I'll gladly do them. And for me, most of my modifications are looking at modifying the density of the puck and trying to change the flow of water inside the puck while waiting for a better heater. Not a better heater, but a fixed heater. So I hope these videos and voiceover help give you some insight to what you can do for yourself.